Hey friends, this is Jessica from One Take with Jess, and I am here again on our second podcast with Andy Wyman of Wyman Legal Solutions.
Hi there. Good to see you again.
How are you?
Am I in first place now with 2 appearances?
Yes, you are.
Right.
I think you're a regular now. This makes you a regular.
I'm going to start subbing in as a host for you when you're on vacation or something.
Oh, yes. Well, should we do like a morning show? Like, Regis, poor Regis.
Like Regis and
May you rest in peace.
Lee
Kathy Lee, was that the duo?
I think so. Regis and Kathy Lee, right?
Regis and Kelly, and then it was the other guy and Kelly, and
Strahan and Kelly, and then
yes, now it's Jess and Andy.
Seacrest, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, we don't count him.
Oh,
Sorry, Ryan.
all right.
Okay, so we're back on today to talk about topical issues that will educate and inspire and empower people.
Excellent. All right, I will try to do all those things.
So you're down in Boca Raton, Florida. That is like the hotbed for coronavirus. How are you feeling? Should I do a temperature check?
Yeah, I'll lean into my camera. My forehead. Yeah, crazy how it seemed to the whole, epicenter of this thing started like in New York, and now it's here in our backyard. I'm in Palm Beach County, in Boca. So we're one of those 3 counties with Dade and Broward that have, we've had some crazy numbers that just keep going up and up. And so knock on wood, I don't actually know anybody personally who has had it. So even though our numbers are real high, I feel fortunate in that regard. But yeah, no, we've had a lot of discussions down here about how we're going to handle that and how it's going to be, kind of reined in. But our governor is a little in denial, I think, of the situation.
Yeah, still, even so. And it's interesting, like we up here in New York, New Jersey, we gave you all a head start. And
I know, you all escaped from New York to come to Florida.
Yeah, true. We shoved a bunch of us on planes, and then but we still gave you a head start.
Right.
So.
Right. So it is what it is. The numbers of the past few days I saw were kind of coming down a little bit from these record highs, but still, it's a crazy how many thousands of people every day are being tested.
Yeah.
Positive.
So you got into a really great fitness regimen a while back, and then with all the gyms that closed down, what are you doing? Are you like lifting kitchen milk cartons?
So my gym reopened and actually had an outdoor area. People wanted to do their workouts outside, they can do that. And some people would go in the gym, and others we would work out outside. It's sort of high intensity interval training, like in your one spot. So you were able to kind of keep away from people. Then the owner of the gym came down with coronavirus. So I do know somebody, never mind. The owner of the gym came down with coronavirus, closed the gym for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And now we ordered a Peloton. And so I'm not going to go back to the gym. It comes on August 8th, and I'm just going to
oh my gosh,
lazy until August 8th until that comes.
Is he okay? She okay? The owner?
No, she's opened back up and everything, but I just, we're just gonna kind of keep it at home.
Wow. I mean, I applaud the efforts for trying to open, and then working out outside in Florida doesn't really sound that appetizing. You'd probably have to do it at like 3 a.m.
I did it at 7 a.m, and it was definitely hot, but not quite in the sun. And then like by the end of the class, the sun was coming over the building and sort of hitting us, and it was pretty brutal. And
then you like exploded into dust.
Right. Exactly. A ball of flames.
That's what happens when you exercise outside in Florida.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. What restaurants were you inside? Did you feel comfortable going into any restaurants when they were still having people in? Are they still allowing people in?
They are. They still allow people. I have not had
I think I know why the numbers are still going up because of
maybe we're getting to something.
Yeah.
We haven't had an indoor meal at all at restaurants. We've eaten at restaurants, but only outside. So, and that's been, you walk through the restaurant, you're wearing the mask. The servers are wearing masks. Some people are choosing to wear masks sitting at their tables too, in between, before their meal comes. But for the most part, once we sit at the table, the masks come off, and it's been fine. Again, it's Florida, so it's hot, it's humid. You got to find a place that's under cover, under a covered area, and so we're just sort of limiting where we eat out to those kinds of places.
Yeah. Do you have a mask preference?
Do I have a mask preference?
Yeah.
I have
are you a surgical mask, or are you a fabric floral mask?
Fabric, just solid black fabric mask.
Straight up black.
Straight up black. That's it. I haven't yet started to match my masks to the rest of my clothing and outfit.
Will you?
I might, if this lasts long enough, I'll have to.
Or is anyone in your household doing that? Are they buying like any luxury brand masks, or going with that whole design?
We haven't gotten the luxury ones. No, we're getting cheap ones, and like a whole mass of them, a whole lot of them, cheap ones. None of us got anything special. My son got one that, that flag that says "Don't tread on me" with the little snake on it. It's like some flag it's some U.S. flag. He'd tell you what it is. Something to do with like the colonies from way long ago.
Okay.
Anyway, he got one. It's a little snake, and it says "Don't cough on me." So that's about the
He's a jokester.
mask. About the most unique mask I think we have in the house.
My husband and son have the one that goes around your neck, and you just kind of pull it down, and it's like a little neck thing.
Oh,
just
yeah.
And it's covers you this.
Yep.
Yeah. But it is interesting walking in with a mask. It's like you're going to rob the place, but you're not. You're just going to get a pack of gum.
Right. Right. Yeah. It is. We were out on the west coast of Florida over in Sanibel a bunch of weeks ago, and people out there, no one was really wearing masks except for the people who were working at stores. Otherwise, no one was wearing them.
Yeah.
But that's the point where we kind of had a little bit of a lull before things took off again, and it's also a little more of a remotely populated area.
Well, I think there's certain things where you don't catch corona. So you don't catch corona if you're protesting, and you don't catch corona if you're on vacation, and you don't catch corona if you are just going in for a quick minute.
Right.
If you're just going to quickly get something and then get out, then you don't. Yeah, there's
right. Or if you're voting, if you're voting for Donald Trump, then you don't catch it either. So.
Right. We're not getting political.
No, we're not. Totally not.
This whole country's going to shit anyway. It doesn't matter who gets elected.
It will be.
Let me tell you, the choices are just not good, because one of them is Trump and the other one is senile. So it's just like, who's going to run what? I don't know. I'm hoping that a third comes in.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, we're running out of some time.
Yeah.
Kanye West.
Kanye was in for a minute. Yep.
Kanye West. We're going to move to New Jersey and vote for him. You could vote for him, right? He's on. I think he's trying to get on your ballot in New Jersey.
I don't know. Can you write anyone in?
Well, you can certainly write anyone in you want to, but I think he's actually going to have his name on ballots or something. I don't know.
I think maybe Jamie Dimon would be good.
Oh. Yeah, why not?
Sure. Yeah. Good businessman.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I'll see what I can do.
Right. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. So last time we had talked about the PPP and the what was going on with the financial situation of small businesses, big businesses, my business, your clients. Some of the large businesses were getting money, which they shouldn't have or should have, and are they really making a difference? So yeah, I mean, our conversation was very intriguing and very timely, and now the economy has done whatever it's done over the past 4 months, since we last talked. 3 months, 4 months.
Right.
And I certainly hope that whatever money was injected into these businesses has gotten people by. I don't know what's going to be for the fall when everything sort of runs out, the unemployment $600 incentive, however that's going to morph into something, and the PPP, whether they're going to have another run at it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fall is going to be very interesting for businesses. And now with all of the reopening, that brings in a whole new set of things to either fear or, litigate against or for. And how are you guys feeling it in your household and in your company?
The the PPP stuff, that lasted, that bought some business owners like 2.5 months of payroll basically. And so that, for the most part, anyone who got their loans in April or in May and at the beginning of June, they've either run out or that money is about to run out and be totally used up. It was definitely, I'm sure, helpful for a lot of businesses, but there are certain businesses that it's just not enough. They're going to have ongoing issues now with payroll, and what I'm seeing the most is the problems are obviously retail and restaurants more than anything else. I think, professionals like me and professional businesses, I don't think, well, as lawyers at least, I don't perceive there are a lot of us having problems. If you're a lawyer and your job is to solve problems for people, and if you can't figure out a way to try to make yourself valuable during this period of time, you might have a bigger problem that, a paycheck from the government's not going to solve for you.
Right.
But for those people who rely upon people, those businesses that rely upon people walking through their doors for business, it's going to be very tough. And because I still, I'm still ordering things on Amazon. We're only going out to dinner at places that have outdoor seating, and being in Florida, outdoor seating that's covered and, in the shade.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of businesses out there that are just really still struggling to get people in the door. And as a result, they may decide that they are, want to get, fast and loose with some of the rules about, keeping themselves the general public protected the right way when they walk through their front door of their business, or they may not be doing the right things on the back end with their employees in an effort to kind of, save themselves some money. Either way.
What does that mean, fast and loose? What have you seen companies doing to try and?
Yeah, there are, in addition to the financial end of the PPP and the PPP end of the coronavirus and the CARES Act, there are a lot of regulations put into place relating to workplace safety and how you're supposed and what you can do to make people feel comfortable to come back into your business, right? So, and I've noticed it in certain businesses I walk into now where there didn't used to be plexiglass up between you and the person standing on the other side of the counter, and now there is, right?
Yeah, by the way, it's a great time to be in the plexiglass business.
Yeah, for sure. Just things that, especially if you're in an office environment, I still have people who want to come see me in my office and talk to me, and I've resisted trying to do that as much as possible. But in our office, where we do have the ability, if people are going to come in without a mask, or people are, we have masks that we're able to give people, and we insist that they use, hand sanitization, even where you seat people in your business or put them, keeping them far enough away from other people that they feel that they're safe and not potentially being encroaching too much on someone else's space or
yeah.
vice.
And speaking of encroaching and having being empowered to make that decision, does the empowerment come from the business owner, where he or she tells the employees, you have to allow people to come in if they don't want to wear a mask, or don't let anyone in if they're not wearing a mask? Like, first of all, you have employees, maybe even teenagers, 18, 19, needing to now enforce this.
Right.
And that's weird, because if someone comes in without wearing a mask and the employee says, I'm sorry, we can't let you in. Right. I mean, who's infringing on whom?
Mm-hmm.
Who's infringing on who? And who's able to have that say? Are you, as the employee, even though your boss says, okay, let them all in, we just need the business, we have to stay afloat, you want to keep your job, let them all in. And then the employee, we had that in a Carvel store recently.
I saw that.
That employee got fired, and actually our friend John Bell is representing him. That's amazing.
He's got a good lawyer there, so that's good.
Yeah.
I think, look, a business owner has to lead by example, and they can't, I want to even say delegate to those. I mean, they can't abdicate the responsibility for what happens in their store to certainly to a teenager or other employee that is relying upon that income, right? To enforce those kinds of rules. I don't think that's reasonable at all. It's going to require the business owner to be there and to actually, or have a responsible adult manager there who's going to enforce the rules of the business. And to me, business owners need to be worried most about their employees more than anything else. Mm-hmm. Actually here in Palm Beach County, we have a mask like ordinance, which I believe now requires the business owners to require people coming into their stores to have masks. You see a lot of the bigger retailers are doing this now, right? Like Walmart and these other big retailers are requiring people to have masks when they come into their stores. Otherwise, as a business owner, you have every right, I think, to kick somebody out of your store if they're not wearing.
I think I saw it in the news where they're actually not requiring any longer. So I think that was last week's news, and this week's news is that they're not requiring.
So I think here in Palm Beach County, somebody actually sued the county, some individual people, to get their mask mandate determined to be unconstitutional or illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And the court upheld the mandate and said, if there's a mandate in place that's saying you have to wear a mask if you're going to go to these places, you have to. And there are trying to enforce it by getting heavy-handed with the business owners. Like if someone comes in your store, you better enforce this and make sure they've got masks on. Or, in some counties, like in Miami-Dade County now, I think you have to wear a mask for the time being. Like if you're at a gym while you're working out, which
Yeah.
if you've ever worked out and you try to do it in a mask, you can imagine it's not easy.
Right.
But if someone comes in and tries to police that and sees someone working out without the mask, the business owner can get fined.
Yeah.
And the business owner can even get arrested under certain circumstances.
It's crazy. I actually saw something recently on John Oliver. Did you watch John Oliver?
I catch some of his clips on.
Did you see the one where the people were like objecting to the mandatory mask wearing, and you had people coming to the podium to say their reasons? Did you see?
Oh, here in Palm Beach County. That was
one. And some woman came up there and she said, "I don't wear a mask, just like I don't wear underwear, because things need to breathe."
Right.
And
yeah.
we're watching this. We're like, "Oh Lord, she's wearing jeans. Like that's a challenge. You can't not wear underwear with denim."
Stay classy, Palm Beach County. Yeah. Yes. So it's tough. So I tell business owners that look, you got to make sure that it's a safe working environment for your employees. If you have to turn people away because they refuse to wear a mask, you got to turn them away. I mean, that's just kind of, to me, it's easy for me to say maybe, but I mean, that's the advice I believe is in their best interest. So.
But you haven't had to defend or deal with any of your clients coming to you and saying that I need your legal assistance in one way, shape, or form for or against or whatnot?
No, just, I mean, I had employers who have issues that have popped up where they were getting rid of employees or, they don't really know how to handle employees who, let's say, look, when you have employees that come into the office, you're really supposed to have like a thermometer and you're taking their temperature and you're making sure people are not there that are sick and that, everyone's wearing masks. And that definitely have employers that are not doing that not requiring that of their employees. And then, all it takes is one of them to no longer that you fire for some unrelated reason to decide that they're going to make your life hell.
Yeah.
And raise these issues with some lawyer who would love to represent them in this sort of stuff. Right.
And that's only a matter of time before that happens.
Right. People are desperate right now. People need money. And especially if you fired someone from a job and now they think that they can, use that as a way to get money out of you. They'll definitely, and there's always a lawyer to take a case.
Yeah. How about any leases or office space? Any of your clients or dealing with any rent issues? Or I shouldn't be prying into your confidential clients. I should just be like anyone in your industry currently tackling non-paying renters or landlords that are getting shafted and they can't evict. Like, is that becoming an issue in your sphere?
I've seen it on all sides. I've seen the landlords who people just aren't paying. Some landlords are in a position to give people latitude to slide with it, and some are not. But they can't evict them. They can sue them for the money, but they can't evict them. And then I've got people who are businesses that are tenants that are having a hard time making their rent, and they're dealing with landlords who are not being forgiving whatsoever, and they're getting sued for the money they owe. They're not getting sued to get kicked out of their place, but they're getting sued for the money they owe. And so it's a
hard place to be. I can feel for both sides, as a landlord or a person who's having properties, you still have to pay your property taxes and nobody's giving you time off from those, obligations. And then as a renter, you can't draw blood from a stone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Have you ever been able to draw blood from a stone?
I haven't seen it done.
I just got a phrase. I don't know.
I don't know where that originated. I'd be interested to know. Sounds biblical, sort of.
Yeah. Well, me in the Bible.
Yes.
Talk to me about what's interesting in your world, though. What are you losing sleep about?
So something that I thought was a problem even before COVID was sort of an access to justice kind of issue, like what I'll call a justice gap, where you've got, having litigated and spent a lot of time in court over my career, one thing that is obvious is that if you have enough money, you could fund any fight you want to, and you can win the battle of attrition, right? I mean, if you got the deeper pocket, the odds are you're going to find a way to win your lawsuit, just because if you're going up against somebody who can't quite afford it like you can, you could just outlast them. And as a result, there's always a lot of people that have problems that I can't help them with. And so, as an example, I do a lot of construction related work. So I have a lot of homeowners who will come to me where a construction issue in their house has gone sideways, right? I gave this contractor $8,000 and he never showed up again, or, you know, that kind of thing. And I get a call like that, and I really can't help that person, because what it would cost them to hire me to go chase that money for them, it would cost more than they've lost in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so they end up really having no relief. And there's this gap of people out there who don't have the money to fund, you know, to protect themselves and defend their rights from a civil standpoint, because they don't have the money to do it. Then, you know, there's of course legal aid and pro bono legal services that are out there designed for the people who are totally destitute. But in between, there's, you know, a good 80% of the population that, you know what, they're not destitute, but they are just trying to make ends meet, and they have legal issues that pop up, whether it be from a lawsuit or things they just know they should do to better themselves. Like they know they should have a will, or, you know, and all these other documents in place, God forbid should something happen to them, but they don't do it, right? I mean, they don't, you know, or if they're a business, they know that it's really in their best interest to have like an employment agreement, an employee handbook. And that'll help them in situations like COVID. Let's say if they've got an employee coming after them, that they actually have policies and procedures, but they don't do it because the cost of having that done for them tends to be cost prohibitive. So, and I feel that's widening because of COVID. And I feel that the rich are getting richer, and the people who are kind of in that middle are really having trouble defending themselves. So what I've started to put together are actually courses that are designed where people can go online and learn what they need to learn in order to handle certain things that they may not be able to pay a full price lawyer to do. For example, setting up an LLC, having an operating agreement, getting all of that off the ground to start a business and to protect yourself the right way through an operating agreement. Hiring a lawyer to do that would be potentially expensive, but I can walk them through in a course format that I can host on like a website like Kajabi or something like that, where they can pay a price to be taught by me how to prepare the documents they need, how to actually file things with the state and get a tax ID number from the IRS and put an agreement in place between them and their partner that's going to, you know, protect both of them as they move forward with their business.
Is this a one-on-one or a recording?
This is a course. This would be a course that's recorded, where I am recording where you watch my screen as I'm creating an LLC with the state. And tax
okay.
ID
And do you use like a preferred website to do it?
The courses are going to be hosted on Kajabi.
Oh no, I mean, when you do it, like, do you use a particular website? Like when I created I think I used LegalZoom, or I don't know what it was.
Okay. Nope. I have documents. Like I have standard documents that I use with my clients.
Oh.
I will also provide them a Word version of the document, let's say an operating agreement, which can be, 8-10 pages long, and have various different things, the rights of the owners, the managers, how you're going to deal with disputes, what happens if one of you dies, all those kinds of things.
Right.
And I have the document that when they buy the course, they get the document in Word, and they have me teaching, showing them, walking them through the document. All right, so in this section, you're going to want to, if you're going to want to change this to say X, if this applies to you. But if
That's
this is
great. That is great.
Way,
very plug and play, very modular, very fill in, like a Mad Libs type thing.
Kind of, right. So then that way they can get, I believe that'll apply well to, the creation of businesses and having basic business type of agreements, basic wills and, healthcare power of attorneys and that kind of stuff. So people can protect what they've got and their kids, if God forbid something was to happen to them, all the way to kind of maybe helping people through how to deal with a small claims. And again, this is mostly will be in Florida, but how to deal with the small claims court system, where now in Florida, everything under $8,000 is small claims. And I think a lot of people are going to try to take advantage of suing others
That's excellent. That is such a gap that is so needed. Absolutely.
So trying to bring that sort of, availability to people who otherwise couldn't afford it, so they at least feel like they can, you know,
Yeah.
have some
And
protection.
how do people know about this? How would people go and find you to do this, or, you know?
Awesome. So my website is wymanlegalsolutions.com. You will, on that website, you can opt in to receive information from me as I put it out every single week, and information about my launch of these courses will be announced in sort of my, you know, amongst my weekly emails I send to people. And then on top of that, I've also put in, for small businesses that are up and running, a business lawyer on retainer program. So if you're, as a business owner, and you have day-to-day needs where you can and want to ask a question to a lawyer, but you are concerned about the clock ticking, I have plans that people can buy on a subscription basis from me on either pay by the year or pay by the month, for as little as $10 a day. And in these plans, they have the ability to email and call a certain amount of times and have documents looked at before they sign them, all year long. And they don't have to worry about the clock ticking when they do it, because it's included in what they're paying me for. And so that also gives them the opportunity to have the comfort of knowing, hey, you know what, I have a lawyer and I have the ability to consult with somebody before I make an important decision about my business. So
That's good. Are you just like still in the planning aspect of it, or when did this launch? Did it launch?
That has launched. The business lawyer on retainer is fully in effect. And so, but the courses that I described to you, those are still being in the planning phase.
When are those going to launch?
As soon as I take care of a couple of hiring needs and open up my time to be able to, you know, devote to actually getting them in the can and filmed. So
would you be hiring paralegals
in the next couple of months? What's that?
Are you hiring paralegals to help you do that, or is it just?
No, that's going to be stuff I'm going to do. I'm going to be hiring, though, a lawyer and a legal assistant to add to my staff full time. I have a paralegal that I use already, and I have a director of client relations, but I need some assistance on actually performing the legal work and offloading some of that to a good team member. So
there you go. Well, if you're a lawyer, you know who to call for a job.
Right, exactly. So yeah.
Well, that's extremely exciting. And as a small business owner, I can certainly feel for, you know, business owners out there that know they need to put, you know, certain things in place. There's an infrastructure, a legal infrastructure that you have to have. You have to have a tax ID, you know, even doing things on eBay. They ask you for your employee, your EIN number, whatever that is. And you can only get that from filing. Do you want an LLC? Do you want a sole proprietorship? Should you incorporate? You know, all of these things. It's very hard to decide. And more people are going the entrepreneurial route because that's the thing to do.
Right.
And yeah, it's good to know that there were only a couple of websites out there that really helped you do it, but they were costly. They are costly. You know, it's a one-by-one downloading the forms and creating that. But it sounds like you're doing it in a very more hand-holding way and more guiding way, which is something that has been certainly lacking. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that justice gap, it's crazy. You have no recourse when you're just a regular person, and most all of us are just regular people.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sucks when you have to go up against someone who has extremely deep pockets. Not to turn it back to me, but I had that happen this past winter, and I have to lay down my sword and be like, you win. Yeah. You're a giant company, and you know, you kind of like got me where it hurts, and you hurt my business, and I don't know if I'll have to pivot or whatnot, but you win. You're too big for me. I don't have that type of legal ammunition behind me. What I need to do would cost at least $30,000, $50,000 in order to get somewhere. And who has that when you're a small business?
Right. Very hard.
So, yeah. I mean, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're making strides towards helping the giant population of small business owners, and maybe you can do something for women, because it's very, you know, on trend, I guess, to be helping women in this space as well. And I say on trend, but I say that with validity as well. Being a woman, sometimes you're not taken as seriously by the man population, and you sound hysterical, and it's not a legal issue. It's just whatever. But
Right.
you know, we know our stuff, and if we had the proper tools behind us, you know, we too would feel empowered. So I think that what you're doing certainly does empower people, and I applaud that.
Thank you. Well, yeah, that's what it's all about. So, you know, hopefully, you know, and like I said, right now, I just think it's getting exacerbated. It's just becoming a bigger problem.
Yeah. Are there any COVID related templates or documents?
Oh, absolutely. Especially on the employment side.
Yeah.
The employment side of things, there are definitely things that business owners should definitely be incorporating into their practices and policies and procedures relating to coronavirus. And there are certain documents that you should have. There's certain notices that if you have employees, there's certain notices you're supposed to be hanging with your other, you know, employment related posters and whatnot about COVID and employees' rights under COVID.
Yeah. So a question about business ownership in Florida. What does it skew older just because the population, the average age of population in Florida is older? Are there older age business owners? And I ask that question for two reasons. One, it's not as easy for the older, you know, people to navigate the internet and to find out all the top news on what they are mandated to do as business owners. A lot of the phone services that they're used to calling an 800 number and talking to a rep, you have wait times of, you know, 18 hours or you'll never get through. So a lot of them aren't as tech savvy as the youngins.
Yeah.
So is there like an older population that is also feeling a gap between what they need to do, whether it's the PPP? I know you were there to assist your clients and new clients in the PPP applications, which again are confusing. They're online, and the older population may not be as quick to be able to even keep their business afloat because it was just that was their bottleneck, the online sphere.
I am finding that some of the older people that I talk to as potential new clients, they're you know, they are a little hesitant or reluctant to embrace technology, email, and those sorts of things. So, you know, I have in my business, I have, you know, if you're going to hire my firm, we're going to enter into an engagement agreement. You're going to an authorization for me to do work, and it spells out exactly, you know, the terms of our relationship. I have software that I could just, you know, merge that up together, send it to you, and you could open it right on your phone and electronically DocuSign it and send it back to me. But I have older clients there's no way they could do that. So I have to
send it by facsimile.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I have to, some of them have email. Most of them will have email, at least be able to get email, but then they're unable to email you something back without taking a picture of it and sending it to you. And right. So now instead of a PDF, I've got a bunch of, you know, JPEGs or they have to sign it and mail it back in.
Yeah.
And that also slows me down a little bit and them down a little bit too, because I also don't, if it's a case where you're paying me by the hour, let's say, I also don't begin work until you've made your deposit into my trust account of your initial deposit. And likewise, you could do that. I send you a link, and there's a secure link. You could fund it with a credit card or an e-check or whatever. And some of them aren't, you know, really even good, you know, enough on the computer to do that, and they have to mail me a check. In which case, you know, my ability to do work for you right away has to wait for you to mail me the check.
Yeah.
Need to get it.
That's unfortunate, because is there something? Is there like an act that prevents them from being hindered? In the same way, shape, and form to do business, whether it's with you or with other companies. It's like steps versus a ramp, you know, and it's internet versus, you know, why should someone else be barricaded from filing for unemployment, for example, in Florida? I know the systems were down.
Sure.
I know the phones were backlogged, so you can't get through. I mean, I could see potential in having some kind of litigation from not being able to access of freedom. I'll make it up. It's like freedom to access via whatever media or non-media you choose. Right. I'm going to put that bill through.
There's it's one thing, you know, they have those sorts of things in place for people with disabilities, right? So, you know, like you pointed out, and it's not just the physical disabilities, like you pointed out, a ramp versus stairs. But if you are, it's the ADA, it's the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it even protects people who, let's say, are vision impaired or hearing impaired when they go on the internet and they go to your business's website. And if they can't navigate it because their assistive devices can't read your website because you didn't program it the right way, you're technically, as a business, violating the Americans with Disabilities Act. And there are lawyers out there who make a very nice living doing nothing but suing businesses for violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yeah, so, but I mean, legitimately so, on the legitimate side of thing, I know that there are lawyers that go looking for those types of things to make the extra stuff. But on the legitimate side of things, there's definitely still some injustice, we'll call it, or a gap. Since you had the word justice gap, you were using that in a financial sense, which was 100%. And you're doing great things to try and help that. But there is like some kind of accessibility gap where business owners, even myself, I'm getting older and older too. And if somebody told me that I had to go apply for the PPP on TikTok, I'd be like, what? You know, I mean, that's kind of like where the aging business owner generation may be when it comes, you know, I'm a little bit more hip because that's just me.
Obviously.
Yeah, and a little bit more tech, but I can imagine if tech confuses you, or if you don't own a printer, or if you don't have a computer, you're really behind the 8 ball.
Definitely. Yeah, that's true.
Are able to
do. Yeah.
Yes, that's if you're looking to
with the government stuff, with the government benefits, that I could totally see how that would be a problem for certain people.
Yeah. So if you're looking for another niche, another niche.
A niche. I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah. No, you know, if you're bored with all the stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
When I have nothing else to do.
Talk to me about schools opening up down there, because schools opening up here are definitely, it's a mixed bag. We were notified in our lower schools, not lower schools, but high school, middle school. The parents have been filling out surveys, teachers have filled out surveys. Just about 2/3 of teachers are not comfortable going back to work.
Yeah.
There's some districts or some people have a little bit more detailed precautions that they're putting into place, but a lot of schools don't yet have that. It's just not an overly comfortable situation. And you guys being in the hotbed down there, how are you? And you usually start early, like your kids should be getting dressed and going to school shortly.
Yeah, usually this year we were supposed to start school August 10th. And so, you know, because we were done with school by June 1st. So, but we got a similar survey sent to us a bunch of weeks ago about how comfortable we feel with school and opening and what we want that to look like. They sent that to us at a point where we were actually doing pretty well numbers wise. And of course, since then, we've been a disaster. So, but they've decided just last week that they're postponing the start of school by 3 weeks. And so now school is going to start August 31st in Palm Beach County. Nobody's going to school in person to start with. And then they have this phased approach. You remember the White House said, you know, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 about different businesses opening. When our county gets to phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4, that's when certain grades will be allowed to go back to school. And so, like, you know, in a high school, for example, like, you know, maybe they'll allow all of 9th grade back at, you know, phase 1, and then 10th grade at phase 2 and 11th grade at phase 3, that kind of thing. I'll have my daughter will be a senior in high school. My son will be a sophomore. The way it's set up, my daughter doesn't get to go back to school until phase 4, which I don't know when we're going to see here in Florida. So for the most part, I'm anticipating they're going to be doing school from home for most, if not all, of this year. Is what I'm expecting.
Wow, wow. Is the intent to bring back the younger kids sooner? And is that because it's a little bit too difficult for parents to homeschool their young kids?
I think that's part of it, but at the same time, I think they don't want to overload any individual building with lots of people, right? So if your elementary school is kindergarten through fifth grade, let's say, it's not like they're letting all those people back at the same time. Only certain grades are going to be allowed to go back, maybe kindergarten and fifth or something like that in the first phase, with other phases to follow. But I do believe that even when kids are allowed to go back to school, there's still going to be plenty of people who aren't going to be comfortable letting them go back to school. And there's probably still going to be the option to learn from home. Last year, when everything fell apart and we had to stay home, it was just kind of like you had your assignments. You maybe had to jump on a call or a Zoom meeting here or there. But this upcoming year, you're actually going to be required to be on Zoom at certain times whenever your class is meeting, so your teacher can teach you. That wasn't the way it was at the end of last year when they first made us learn remotely. But this year they're going to be doing that and make you be at least 20 minutes every day in each class at the actual class time.
Yeah. And that's great. That's I'm glad that they've been doing that. Have they had like instructional classes for the teachers to learn how to run their classes? Did this happen throughout the summer?
I think that's part of why they delayed the opening of school.
So they could have them come in and do teacher intervention.
Do that. Yeah, and I know teachers that we're friends with that they don't want to go back to school.
Yeah.
They don't want to. They don't want to. They know that some level of cleaning the classroom between classes is going to be part of their new job responsibilities that they don't want to have to deal with. They also don't feel, especially older teachers.
Right.
Right. If you're younger, like us, that's one thing. But if you're a teacher in your 60s, I would definitely be very concerned about going back into that school environment, because I can tell you just from knowing what my kids' friends are doing, like they're out there still congregating with parties and crazy other shit that it's like, people are going to get sick because their kids are idiots.
Yeah. No, you know what? I agree. And you can't stand up there and say, no, not my kid, because it's really everyone's kid. That's what kids do. And I don't know what the universities are going to do, but I do think that it is good that teachers are re-educated on how to teach in an online environment. You have Google that's not bringing their employees back at all until summer 2021.
Yes.
So you have large companies that have already said, not going to do it, and that's totally fine. But then you have, school districts and the community and even workplaces kind of pressuring for schools to reopen and to continue educating our kids when I don't know if it's pressure on the corporate side coming into the school side because they want to be able to have their employees efficiently work from home without the distraction of children, without the distraction of having to teach your third grader, lattice math.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know what lattice math is anyway. That's the wrong way to do math.
No.
But
no,
anyway.
I've never heard of that. But I do know that down here there are people that are they're trying to put together, I guess they're calling like these pods, right? Where if you have kids that are kind of like the same age in the same class, that you sort of get together, that you sort of know their families well enough, maybe 3 or 4 of them, they'll get together in one place to do their schoolwork for the day, and it might be your house one day, might be my house the next day, that kind of thing, where it doesn't burden every single parent of every single kid, and it allows more flexibility for the parents to do their work or go to work and know that their kids are still being watched and doing work because there's an adult there to do it with them. And so I know that those are being organized around the area by people who have smaller kids that need that. Fortunately, I don't need that because my kids are older. So.
Right, and these are typical homeschool scenarios, that happened back in the day where they were smaller classrooms, and one mom would be a good teacher and she would teach, for those number of hours. And it is interesting how things are getting very much back to the roots of other things that have existed. They just kind of weren't known or weren't fully accepted into the mainstream, but now they are. So it's kind of like backyard parties. back in the day, I think I had a birthday party that was in my garage. You know, you'd pull open the garage door and open up some folding tables, and that's where your birthday party was.
Right, right.
We got into this whole world of making birthday parties look like weddings.
$100 birthday parties every single year. Yeah, it's like,
yeah. But now I think we're back to putting a birthday party in your backyard and calling it a day. So a lot of things have become a lot more back to the homegrown late 70s, mid 80s.
Right, right.
Those times.
Yeah, a little more simplified.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, like when you guys are still in schools, do your kids have a private education or are they in the public schools?
No, public school. Our public school system in Boca is pretty good. So they are public school kids.
And is there any fear from, like kids getting sick and if they're going to sue the school district with liability on that end?
I think the school is probably concerned about that. I wouldn't be surprised if when they do allow kids back in school, someone's going to require me to sign some kind of form that absolves them from any liability, for COVID. And
as a lawyer, would you ever have your family or your kids or you sign a form like that, releasing?
I'd sign it. If my kids weren't allowed to go back to school, I'd sign it. And then if something happened that I felt was, actionable or that I wanted to pursue, I'd sue them anyway and we'd figure it out. But that was the only way they were going to go to school. I mean, some of those releases that are, you're obligated to sign like that in a school setting, I don't know how enforceable it would really be. But.
Yeah. I mean, I hope everyone's safe. They really don't know 100% anything, but they certainly don't know what happens to children. And your kids are older like my kids. But with little kids, you really have to be careful that it started manifesting, symptoms were showing in just like an overall inflammatory type of way. It looked like Coxsackie, where, feet, you'd have COVID toes. So there was like an inflammatory reaction happening throughout the body that would show on the toes area. So all of these things were like coming to fruition, and we still don't fully know how how the body reacts. The young body, the old body, the little body, the big body.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. A lot of unknowns.
So anything else going on, or that's what you're pursuing at this time, the justice gap and your new tools that are helping people get things done?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm, focusing on as a way to kind of do something differently. I'm also otherwise just looking to, explore moving into other practice areas that I don't presently do, focus on consumer debt. So people who are having problems with credit card debt, everything from credit consolidation and negotiating of debt to bankruptcy. Everything within there that people, and foreclosure defense, those kinds of things that I anticipate in 6 to 12 months are probably going to be a lot of business. I'm now trying to plan out and map out how I'm going to evolve what my firm does into a firm that can also help those people.
Yes. And what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that I want to be able to provide a full range of solutions for people that are in that situation. I don't want to just be a bankruptcy person, because I think there'll be a lot of bankruptcies. So when someone comes in, every answer to their question is file bankruptcy, file bankruptcy. I want to be able to make sure I have the ability to customize solutions to people who need bankruptcy, but then for the people who don't. And so from a business perspective, it's a matter of just getting the right people in the right places. It's a matter of making sure I have the right software, the right people that can handle those things, whether it be on a paralegal level or lawyer level who has experience already doing it. So I can build a team of people and then just market it and bring the business in and hand it off to a competent team of people who know how to do that stuff. That is
That's great. You're right. That will be needed for sure.
Totally. And foreclosure defense back in 2008 and 2009, Florida is a judicial foreclosure state, which means if your bank's going to foreclose on you, they have to sue you and do that. And it's a lawsuit. Some states don't require that. Some states, it's like a 30-day notice, and before you know it, you're out of your house. Down here, it's not like that. Down here, there's a lawsuit. So you get a lawyer, you defend it. Literally, you could drag a foreclosure out for years, 2 years, 3 years. And all the while, you're not paying your mortgage, right? So you're kind of living in a house for free. And so I was doing something back in 2008, 2009, where I would defend you in your foreclosure. And for every month I'm able to keep you in your house, you're going to pay me $300. And you're not paying your mortgage as it is, right? So you're going to just pay me $300, and I'd keep you in your house without paying a mortgage for 2-3 years, you know. And if you get a lot of that business, it's a good recurring revenue stream for me. Some months I'm not doing any work on your file. Some months I'm definitely doing more work than the $300. But
is there an ending that is good when you end up like defending someone in a foreclosure? Is there something that they're hoping to get a good result from, or are they just
they're looking to either live without having to pay for as long as they can, or, you know, maybe you're at a point where you can modify the mortgage, renegotiate with the bank, you know, and pick payments back up again when you're able to. Maybe you owe more at that time, but at least you've had the relief during a really hard period for you. And then sometimes, you know, then this was a big, you know, thing back in the day, was the, you know, robo signers. They had basically these banks lost track of the promissory notes, right? Where people, because they took the loan and it packaged and they sold it to this person who sold it to this person, and it got packaged into it, and someone would sue to foreclose on you and they couldn't even produce a promissory note. They couldn't
wow?
produce the loan paperwork. And, you know, so there are
Well,
some
how does that
instances.
end? How does that end? Do you keep your house free and clear because someone lost
On
the title to you?
on a rare occasion, yes. But I never tell people to have that sort of expectation, obviously.
Yeah.
Make sure they're signing paperwork knowing, you know, acknowledging I've never told them that they're going to get their house for free, and that, you know, at some point the gravy train will come to an end and you will have to move out of your house and you may owe a lot of money. But if, you know, and, you know, people, it depends on their goals, and that's not the best solution for everybody. But so the point is that I want to be able to help people that are going to find themselves in that situation, who have a ton of credit card debt, or a foreclosure, or maybe a bankruptcy, and I want to be able to, you know, add that to what I can help people do.
Yes, that's a great thing to get into. Is there any way that personal bankruptcy makes sense as one of your first options? Like, should people be considering personal bankruptcy as one of the first options when they realize, wow, I've gone from $5,000 in debt to $85,000 in debt, and I'm just going to file for personal bankruptcy? Like, should that ever be the first move?
It depends on your situation. Everybody's situation is different. You know, not just because you have a lot of debt doesn't mean you can file for bankruptcy. There's people, if you make enough money, you can't even qualify to file for bankruptcy.
Oh, you have to qualify for filing for bankruptcy?
There's a test, a means test, on whether or not you can actually get your debts discharged in bankruptcy. And there's the kind of bankruptcy that discharges your debts completely. And there's a kind of bankruptcy that sort of reorganizes your debt, where you're making a payment plan over time.
Mm-hmm.
So each kind of has their own standards. It sort of depends on the nature of your debt. You know, if you have student loans, that's not something you're going to be able to get. Bankruptcy is not going to be able to get rid of student loan debt for you.
What happens to student loans when you can't pay them?
You just keep owing the government or whoever, the banks, more and more and more and more money.
Forever.
Basically.
And then when you're dead, your estate owes student loans, if you have an estate?
Yes, your estate would. But, you know, but at that point, you'd probably, if you're married, you know, you've got certain exemptions of things the estate can't take because it passes to your spouse or whatever. There's a whole lot of rules about that. But so yeah, depending on the nature of your debt and the amount of it and how much you make and all that, there's a whole analysis that goes into it. I don't do bankruptcy presently, so I can't tell you exactly what that analysis looks like, which is why I will be hiring a kick-ass bankruptcy lawyer to run that for me, as I hand him cases from business I bring in.
Yeah, you know what? Part of the process is really getting that know all type person to be your go-to, and it sounds like you are a good go-to for a lot of people for a lot of different legal solutions.
Yes, I know very little about a lot of things, so yes.
Just enough though to get you in trouble.
Right, just enough that I know what I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Vlad and I were talking about the student debt crisis, and we're just like appalled. And he explained it to me in such a way which made complete sense. And it went back to the 2008 mortgage crisis, where banks just hand out money.
Yes.
Banks just hand out money. People get larger and larger mortgages that on paper they shouldn't ever be able to have paid back in the first place. And that's the same exact thing with college debt. People are being handed money to go to schools. Schools are accepting that money and then charging larger tuition because
it's terrible. It's
horrible.
It's such an awful situation. And, you know, it's a racket really, because I mean, the student never sees the money. I mean, it's going straight from the government to the school, and the student just becomes responsible for it. You know, I mean,
this is a debt that follows you to death. This is the student debt debt.
Yep, absolutely. Unless you know, can manage to pay it off. I mean, I would never advise someone that take out student loans to go to college. Like if you're a kid and you have to graduate college and you have a lot of student loans, I would feel that's knowing that that's how I paid for law school, the kind of burden that puts on you for a very, very long time is, it's, you know, at least as a lawyer, you have the ability to at some point earn a nice living. Just because you went to college doesn't mean you're going to have that ability. And especially if you choose to major in liberal arts or something, that doesn't translate. So, you know, I feel that for those people that there's no amount of college, there's no college that I think is worth $70,000 a year or whatever people are paying.
And yet people are just receiving mail every day with new financial aid and new loans. And which bank did you go to? I'm on all of the college forums. Ben goes to Penn State. And so many people ask that question all the time. Which bank should we get student loans from? Which bank should we get student loans from? And it's if you ever type in those things in comments and say, listen, if you can't afford to pay for the school, do not get a student loan, just switch to a different school, because schools will continue charging the tuition that they do because the money is there through these institutions that just keep handing over the money. And I don't know where or how the cycle breaks. And if you were to say, okay, we're going to forgive all student loans, what about those people that actually didn't take loans and paid for college? They might have worked 3 jobs to pay for college to stay away from loans, and they're not going to get any sort of relief from that. Only the people took the easy route.
Right. Well, here in Florida, they have the prepaid program, which I've been paying into since my kids were born. Then I funds that by the time they graduate high school, I will have 4 years of tuition, a year of room and board, and 4 years of fees paid at any state of Florida school for both of them. And so, you know, and University of Florida is a great school. And my daughter did well enough on her SATs that she got the Bright Future Scholarship, which gives her free tuition at any Florida state school for 4 years.
That's
so
awesome.
Between that and what I've put away, you know, for her in this program that I'm paying a few $100 a month to, first year I'll probably get some money back. So
that's amazing. And what if she ever tells you, like, you know what, Dad, I want to go to Vanderbilt?
I tell her, well, if you can go to Vanderbilt for what it's going to cost me to send you to Florida, then you can go to Vanderbilt. And we've had this conversation many times in the past 60 days. But in that case, the money, I don't lose the money I put in. The money I put in transfers, and because when I started it, I lock in the price of college at the time I started paying, which was 2002 for Alyssa and 2004 for Noah. So now, you know, so I think I paid maybe, by the time she graduates, maybe 14 grand over the course of 17 years. And as a result, it's going to be, I get all that, you know, whatever the present value is of the college education now, I would have that much credit towards using it at any college in the country I want to. So it's basically going to make college like a non-event for me when it comes to.
Yeah, that's great. I wish I would have known. We would have.
Thank God. Thank God. But yeah, no, we've had this conversation recently because she's expressed a desire to leave the state of Florida because she doesn't, you know, I made a terrible choice having her born here in Florida, you know. So she did, you know, the grass is always greener kind of thing, right? So
of course.
I'd rather be in Massachusetts or California or some other
Does
place.
she want to
Anyway,
come on? Does she want to be a guest on podcast?
maybe she would be. I don't know if she wants to now. I could find out if she put her face on.
That was a joke from pre-podcast. We'll just put her face on.
So yeah, so thankfully Florida has a great program for that's gonna, like I said, college will be like a non-financial event for me.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people like had done that planning, and I wonder if that's a good plan for other states to execute. And you know, I wish there was some kind of across the board committee, something that really unites the United States of America and has best practices really shared across states, because that would have been a great plan,
Right,
for all states, for any
and
state.
that's the thing. I mean, certain schools, yeah, every state I'm sure has a good school. You know, a lot of them have very good. So University of Texas, North Carolina, Virginia. I mean, you know, these state schools are obviously very good schools, but the whole school system, you know, they're very popular down here, as you can imagine, and it keeps a lot of kids in state, kids that would otherwise probably go to some of those other really good schools around the country. So as a result, it makes our school more and more competitive to get Florida, particularly University of Florida, which is #1 in the state school system, makes it super competitive to get into. And then as a result, Florida State, which is the second best, is becoming much more competitive. And then UCF in Orlando is the third best. That's becoming much more competitive. So it's elevating the status of all these schools quite a bit. So it becomes difficult.
Are they focusing on bringing a lot of students in from out of state? Because I know a lot of schools like University of South Carolina, they do a lot of a larger and larger percentage of their student population is coming from out of state for two reasons. One,
Higher tuition.
they get out of state tuition, and two, they're bringing in, they're looking more competitive as they're bringing in kids that have higher grades, higher GPAs, higher SAT scores. So they're making the school on average look higher in terms of the education, because it's more competitive. Like our average SAT score is now 1280 instead of 980 as it used to.
Okay.
I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it becomes more desirable to go there because it looks like it's a better school. And the more people that apply there, the acceptance rate, that percentage drops down. So again, it looks more competitive.
Right.
But it's just because of the influx of applications.
I think it's a lot harder to get into these schools from out of state. I would expect, well, maybe not. You know, I would think there's at least a minimum percentage of students they have to take from in-state if it's a state school.
Yeah.
So
And
I would think they want to fill spots with out-of-staters for the tuition reason. You know, I would think. I mean, but competitive, as far as competitiveness is concerned, you know, just using Florida as my only really point of reference, I think that it's got it's super competitive because of how cheap it is and the amount of people who are staying in state to go there as opposed to getting out of state. I think that's raising all of those statistics internally here.
That's good. That is good. Out of state money though is very, very appealing, especially going full circle. The banks are giving it out.
Right.
Like
Right.
candy.
Yep. So.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, you're a reoccurring guest. Almost a co-host.
Yes, I'm gonna be on the end of the couch, pretty much. Going forward. So.
All right. Well, say hello to the family.
I will. You too.
We'll do this again.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.